we should talk about my Detroit Tigers, who have
Detroit.
much good news, much bad news, and some great news that I want to get into this week. First, I'll start with the good news. First base prospect number 4, according to MLB Pipeline in the major leagues, Spencer Torkelson was promoted to opening day first base status for the Detroit Tigers. Just a cool story. The best part of that story actually is how it actually happened. Apparently, they were kind of fucking around with him to tell him the news. AJ Hinch called him into his office, sat him down, and realized that Al Avila and Miguel Cabrera were both in the office waiting for him. And they started to talk about some of the mistakes he had made in the field the previous day. I think he bumped into a second baseman going for a pop up. I think he may have misplayed a grounder at one point. They were really just fucking with him essentially. And Miguel Cabrera, that's the coolest part of the story. He's literally there to pass the torch from, our first baseman for 12 of the last 14 years, passing the torch over to our new first baseman of the future, Spencer Torkelson. So just a fun story, of course, a dream come true for him. I did not expect him to necessarily coming into the spring. I wasn't sure if he was quite ready. He had a horrific spring last year. I don't know if you remember that. He had one hit. I think it was 1 for 13. Kind of overwhelmed, but he tore through the minors after a slow first month, eventually making it all the way up to AAA. I thought he might take a little more time to actually be called up to the Major League Club. And I wasn't quite sure if Al Avila would be one of those GMs that would say, hey, let's hold off for 12 or 14 days to do some service time manipulation that we've seen in many parts before. And Tigers they don't play the game that way. They call their players up when they're ready to play. And that's admirable. I think it might not be the greatest idea fiscally in 7 years from now. If they had the chance to hold on to him for an extra year, if they held him back for 3 weeks, I think it sends a great message to fans, though, that Tigers aren't fucking around. They're here to win. They're not worried about the financial responsibilities. Years from now, they're going to do what it takes to win, and I appreciate that out of my organization. So, unfortunately, the bad news: the player that I was convinced would be called up to the Major League squad is one Riley Greene, who was going to be the center fielder of the future and was absolutely destroying everything this spring. It was a no-brainer. He was going to be our starting center fielder this weekend. Unfortunately, he broke his fucking foot. He fouled the ball off his foot. He stayed in the game. Next pitch, he tripled off of Garrett Cole, of none other than Garrett Cole. Legged out a triple and scored on the next at bat, and came into the dugout and said, "Man, my foot hurts," but somehow I was able to leg out a triple with a broken foot. But unfortunately, the news was he did break his foot. He's going to be out. I believe it's at least 4 weeks. Then he's got to basically start rehab. It's probably going to be a 2-month injury before we see him up. So that's a real bummer because like I said, of the two big prospects, I thought he was the shoe-in to be in the majors this year, and he was looking to be a legit rookie of the year candidate that we will get to later on in the show. So that was the bad news. It's a bummer. Fortunately for Tigers fans, that negative news actually turned into some great news, as the Tigers sent another signal to their fans that they are not fucking around. We are no longer in a rebuilding process. We are in it to win it, if at all possible. As they traded for Austin Meadows from the Tampa Bay Rays, which I saw that on Twitter. I forget what night that was, maybe Monday night, and I thought I saw it wrong. Like I didn't. It literally didn't register to me that the Tigers would make a deal, let alone that kind of deal of that magnitude, And then I had to read even deeper and read it 3 or 4 times because all they gave up was Isak Paredes and a second round compensatory pick, which I didn't even know you could trade draft picks. That's a kind of a rare thing, or might have to do with the new CBA that you can do that, or maybe it just is because they call it a competitive balance compensatory pick, where all the small market teams get an extra pick. I believe it's right after the first round. It's either right after the first round or right after the second round. The small market teams get an extra pick. So whatever, they traded one of those and Isak Paredes to the Rays for Austin Meadows, which is just astounding. Now you can poke holes in Austin Meadows, but anyone that has 106 RBIs last year and hits 27 home runs is going to be good for the Tigers. That's an upgrade in the field, and it certainly fills a position of need now that Riley Greene is hurt. It's also going to work out just fine having him as the fourth, or having 4 outfield options when Riley Greene does come back.
Right.
To be able to rotate him in and out with Akil Baddoo in left, or even Robbie Grossman in right. Baddoo's going to be playing center field while Green is out, but it just gives a lot more versatility. It's a not a shocking move, but it's a move that winning organizations make, and that doesn't guarantee anything, but it just says the Tigers are done fucking around. We've waited 5 years for this fucking rebuild to take shape, and now that we're here on the precipice of it, they're doing whatever it takes to fill that. So I'm amazed. Left-handed bat that was always valuable, and in fact, I was shocked to find out, listening to once again Chuck Garfien on the White Sox Talk podcast mentioned that the White Sox were trying to deal Craig Kimbrell for one Austin Meadows and were rebuffed. They did not want his $16 million contract or his services in Tampa. It wasn't really a good match. The match made a lot more sense to come to Detroit with a young controllable player and a draft pick. But the key is the left-handed bat. And you and I kind of talked a little bit after you traded for AJ Pollock that that's a great move for you guys. But the only thing you could say is he's not a left-handed bat, which I know you guys are always looking for. Everybody's always looking for, but that would have been the one thing you'd like. And the youth, I mean, he's only 20, he's going to be 27 next month. AJ Pollock is 34.
34. Yeah.
So that's a big difference there too. But I couldn't believe when I heard that the Sox were actually going for him. But I just think it's a encouraging sign for Tigers fans. Doesn't mean that I'm going to pick them to win the division or even make the wild card, as we'll get to our Nostradamus predictions at the end of the year. But it gives you encouragement that we are done with this fucking rebuild, and we are now trying to contend officially. So
yeah, I would say that's definitely a move that shows a team that wants to win now. I question the Rays though. I don't know that the Rays' heart's in it to be competitive this year. I mean, it looks like they're doing like a little bit of a restocking. I mean, I think from their aspect, getting Paredes is a great, future builder pick. He's got a lot of upside according to all of the projections for him, but like and sending Kimbrell there was like, that's just silly on the White Sox part. They want nothing to do with Kimbrell. Yeah. They don't need Kimbrell.
I think they had to kick the tires at least.
Yeah, if you wanted to offer up Gavin Sheets or something, they probably would have been takers on something like that. But
that was the first question, is like, why are the Rays doing this? Like, I could not figure out, like, this seemed like such a lopsided trade. And it makes sense a little bit in context where they have one of their top prospects I think his name's Josh Lowe, was being blocked by Meadows' presence.
Right. I did read that too.
They want to get him out of the way, and like I said, Meadows isn't the perfect player. He doesn't have the OBP that you're looking for. He doesn't have the batting average either, but he's got the power, and he's a mediocre outfielder defensively too. So that's an issue too. So again, I'm not going to be the Tigers aren't going to be aren't going to be picky when it comes to that part. We're adding a lot of. It's a big upgrade for what the Tigers have been trotting out there. So, again, I don't know if you're going to see. This is not going to make me think they're going to win the division, but I just love that they're definitely competing now. The other interesting part of the Austin Meadows trade is he joins his brother in the Tigers organization, Parker Meadows, who's the number 20 prospect in the Tigers system.
Oh, look at that.
So yeah, so now the brothers are reunited in Detroit. So there was some question. I think I tweeted or I texted you right when I saw the news, and you thought that maybe he was hurt or something. That it was because he had been pulled from the game prior earlier that day because from dehydration apparently, and he'd been driving too much, which I thought was a very odd thing that could screw up your leg, or I don't know what he did or why he's driving so much. But
at least he's not riding on a motorcycle.
Yeah, but that might not be a good combination if he's going to the Motor City. I mean, he's going to be driving all over the place. So
you guys got fleeced on that trade.
Got to be careful with that. Well, that is all I have for the Tigers. Tigers versus White Sox Friday to open the season in Detroit. Unfortunately for you, Tim Anderson will be missing the first 2 of those 3 games.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, but it is a instantly important series. Thank you to the lockout for pushing the season back 1 week to make this the opening series. I think it's going to be awesome. A division series immediately. Tigers have a tough 40-game start to the season. They are playing, I believe it's the White Sox. They have 6 games against the Red Sox, Yankees. I think they play the Dodgers. They have a gauntlet to start the season. So we're going to know quickly whether the Tigers are for real or not. If they can be somewhere around 500 at the end of April, I'll be ecstatic, as obviously that is what killed them last year. They had a historically bad April last year and were really damn good from that point on, and we're well above 500 all 5 months after that, and really look like a competitive team. So if they can just survive April in that gauntlet, we might be seeing some interesting things. So, but I'll get deeper into that later in the show.
Word Hole Media.